what's funny is that with Sophie, I had trouble making it to 10 seconds with my breath, but with Grayson, I was like good. I was like a great pusher. I could go longer than 10 seconds. I'd be like, ooh, you know. And I'm real fair skinned, so my skin gets red really easily. So I would get red skin, and they were like, oh, she needs oxygen, but I just get really flushed really easily. So
they came right over and put a mask on. I'm like, she's
probably fine. I was too, but it was funny. So yeah. So I got and I just kept pushing, and they were like, I could feel it. I felt him when he was coming out, and I could feel him. Finally, I could feel him kind of moving down, so I knew I was doing it right. And it did burn, that ring of fire thing. I felt that, and I tore. I did tear. The doctor was trying to help me. She was like trying to do the smoothing thing so I wouldn't tear. But I tore. I could kind of feel that. Not as much as, I'm sure I would have felt it a lot more. Because with Sophie, I felt it. But I tore, and the doctor, did she even cut? She didn't, did I? She just let me tear. She didn't even give me a cut, an episiotomy. I just tore, naturally tore. Second degree, I had a second degree tear. But she just let me tear naturally. She didn't cut it. She didn't give me an episiotomy. So I tore on my own. I was trying to not go too fast so I wouldn't tear, and they told me that too. She's like, take your time, push when you want. But that was just how I wanted to push. And so, anyway, I felt myself tear a little, and it kind of hurt for that second, but it was fine. And then, yeah, I just got him out. Kyle he watched more. He didn't really watch it all with Sophie, so how'd you feel, though, watching that?
It was pretty neat. It was cool.
Yeah. You could see his little head
when
he came out?
Yeah.
Oh, and another thing is Sophie, when I pushed her out, it was like as soon as her head started to come out, her whole body, like, she flew out. It was like,
plopped out.
She was like her whole thing. Him, it was more the traditional way, which is I kind of got his head out, and then I had to keep pushing, and they had to kind of turn him, It was like totally textbook, like the normal way. Sophie just flew out, but I got her out with that push. But him, it was definitely a little bit more, but that was okay. And he came out fine. And they kind of briefly laid him on my lower stomach, for just a second. And then she was like, we're going to take him over and get him cleaned off. And, I just remember, I just touched his little head, and I was like, yay! I was really happy. And they took him to go clean him. And I was like, what does he weigh? I was so curious. I was staring over. So the doctor was fixing me up, and she was like, okay, she has a second degree tear. She's like, I'm going to sew you up. And yeah. She sewed me up. I didn't feel it at all, her sewing me up. I mean, I could feel the sensations, but it didn't hurt. And
so then they brought him back over.
They brought him back over to me a lot quicker. Sophie, it took him a while to bring her to me because she had some issues with liquid that got stuck in her lungs.
And because of the heart.
Oh, and yeah, she had decelled her heart rate had gone down into the 30s, you guys. So and with me, I had lost excessive blood, and so it just took longer, but with him, it didn't take. They were real quick to get him right back to me. And they weighed him, and he was 19 3/4 inches long, although they recorded it at 19 1/2 for some reason. I don't know why. And 8 pounds, 7 ounces. So big, but not 8.5 pounds, not as big as I guess I was thinking. Yeah, and then they brought him over to me, and I snatched him up. I was so excited to see him. And so then he just was so precious. It's a really amazing feeling. Huh.
Oh yeah. They're so cute.
So then my mom left to give Kyle and I our time, and I wanted to nurse him right away, so I just ripped off all my, oh, and they had to put me on magnesium. Oh, they took my blood pressure, and it went to normal as soon as he was out. So, although it went back up, but that's a whole other story, whatever. But anyway, so yeah, I wanted to nurse him right away. He had some trouble latching on. We called in the lactation. Our hospital has a permanent or an on-staff actual certified lactation consultant on duty. Our hospital also, they don't ask you, they assume you're breastfeeding. They don't ask you.
They did. Yeah, they didn't ask.
No, they don't. It's a very pro breastfeeding hospital, so they basically just ask you to breastfeed. They encourage you to breastfeed, and they don't even mention bottles unless you tell them. You have to say, I'm going to give him a bottle. Otherwise, they literally assume that you're nursing. And so, anyway, so that lactation consultant came in, and in like 10 seconds, she like was like, bloop, and he was like latched on eating, like hungrily, you know. It was really cool. And I was like, oh yeah, and it brought back all those memories of nursing Sophie and that sensation, that sucking sensation, that kind of like pulling feeling. It was just like, I remembered it so well. And it was just really cool. It was really magical. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, so they put a catheter in because I had to be on magnesium to help, to kind of prevent seizures, and you can't get out of bed when you're on it, so they put a catheter in and back in or whatever, and they take them out whenever you're having the baby. And so I had that done and didn't, you know, it was fine. She was trying to do it quick. She's like, before the epidural wears off, let me get this thing back in there. And because they turned off the epidural as soon as I had the baby, they turned it off. Yeah, that was it. And the doctor, the whole time I was having him, the doctor would be like, "Good job, that's great," you know. And when we were done, the doctor was like, she was basically like, "Wow," you know. All the nurses were like, "Oh, that was amazing."
No Pitocin.
Yeah, it was so funny. Kyle and I like rolled our eyes. We were like, "Yeah, imagine that. You don't have to have Pitocin to have a baby." So
they were all really happy because, you know,
they were really happy.
He was born at 8 a.m.
And that was after holding off pushing for an hour.
Right. And
so he would have been there around 7.
But they were really happy because when they were finally wheeling us out of the room at like 9 or whatever to go to the
room to wait.
Postpartum room, they were like, "Thanks for giving up the room. We have like people out in the waiting room for
waiting to have babies." And I was teasing them. I was like, "I do what I can. I was just trying to help you all out, trying to get." And they were laughing, and they were like, "Oh." And they were all nurses that didn't even deliver Grayson were like proud of me. They were like, "Good job, you did it. No Pitocin, no anything." And I was like, "Yeah." So, because usually when you're induced, I guess they usually end up having to use it.
That's what we figured. Is that they were clearly planning to. So. Yeah,
and it's just like with Sophie, and they were all just really happy for me because they knew I didn't want it. I guess the word gets around that patient so and so doesn't want this, and anyway, and I was just like, "Yep," and yeah, they were all like, "Oh, and you're already in labor and da-da-da, and that helps," and I was like, "Sure does." So yeah, so then we went to recovery or whatever, and I said that I had to be on the magnesium for 24 hours, and then I had to do my actual postpartum stay, which was 24 hours too. So that's why I was at the hospital for longer than most people. And yeah, and that first day I had trouble with Grayson latching on. It would take me 5 minutes to get him latched on, and then once I got him latched on, he'd nurse really well. So that whole day, I had a little bit of trouble, and that night, a little bit of trouble. And then in the middle of the night, Kyle snoozing over on the couch, and I had Grayson. They brought him into me from the nursery, and all of a sudden, we just figured it out. He and I just figured out the whole thing. And he's been a great latch. He latches on great ever since, so it's been wonderful. So much easier than with Sophia. So, and I stayed there and had the baby, and yeah, that was it. So that was my crazy labor and delivery story. It was awesome. It was such a good experience.
It really was.
It was wonderful. I had the baby, and the best part was the fact that I was in labor. I went into labor on my own. So that Monday. So those kind of weird contractions I've been feeling that I was like, I think there's less action, but these definitely feel different. They were the real deal. And on Monday, you know, and the thing is Kyle was saying too, and I think he's right. We think the fact that I was going into labor probably triggered my blood pressure to go up. You know, we
were saying that the same reasons you were going to be induced are the same reasons you go into labor.
Yeah.
So.
My blood pressure was going high, and my body was like, it's time, you know. And I was 39 weeks, so.
Because a lot of them were like, I guess really, so a lot of the nurses seemed surprised you were going into labor. Like, while you were being induced, and it's like...
They were like, you're already in labor.
It's not really a coincidence. I mean,
yeah.
There's definitely a correlation between the two, so...
It's good, though. And it was just like we said with Sophie, people were teasing me. They were like, oh, with her it went so fast. They were like, when you have another baby, you better get to the hospital quick. And if I had stayed home, had not gone into the hospital, if we had, my blood pressure had been normal, I would have labored at home until those intense ones came, and we would have been like, we would have got to the hospital, and I would have been like a 9 or 10. Then I probably wouldn't have even had the epidural. I would have just had the baby. So it was really quick, but it was awesome. So here's baby Grayson. Say hi. Say hi, baby Grayson. I'm an adorable baby. Oh, there he is. So precious. Let's show him your hair. He's got dark hair like me. And he smells amazing. Let me show his little toes. There's his little toesies. He's like, Mama. He's hungry. Here, Kyle. Alright, you guys, so that's my really long story, but I wanted to give it in all details, and just because, for my sake too, I want the memories, because I'm already forgetting what happened. You forget so quickly little details. So, anyway, that was it, and it was amazing. It was amazing. It was such a great labor and delivery. So, and I'm healing so well. Like I said, I had a 2nd-degree tear, but no episiotomy, and it's just healing really fantastically. I've had, the first night I had some excessive, I guess some like larger than normal clotting and things. But after that, since then, I've had less postpartum bleeding in my recovery than I did with Sophie. It's been great. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just so happy. I'm so happy. I still can't get over the fact that I went into labor on my own. It just the whole thing just seems so perfect, and I'm so grateful and so blessed. And so, anyway, it was wonderful. And I will try to do, a postpartum update and tell you guys about everything since then. And that was it. So yeah, there we go. It was wonderful, wonderful labor and delivery experience. Could have not been, a little scary with the blood pressure thing. But it all worked out. Ended up having wonderful labor. And I did mention, I had said early on while I was pregnant that... No, he's hungry. I had said early on when I was pregnant that I really wanted that experience of rushing to the hospital and that excitement. And the thing is I still got that, because we went home, I was in a hurry, I was already having contractions, and my mom and I were rushing back to the hospital. I called my husband at work to tell him to, come on honey, it's time. So I still ended up having that experience, and I'm very grateful for that. So, alright, thank you guys for sharing the journey with me. Now we move on to the next part of the journey. And I do have to say one thing, and that is that after having Grayson, I was teasing Kyle. I was like, alright, you have to have the next one. But since we've been home, when I'm holding him and looking at him, he just makes me want to have, Grayson just makes me want to do it again. It's just all worth it. And so, just, if you're expecting your baby and you're scared, just remember, trust me, it's worth it. And remember to always pray and send out lots of baby dust for people who haven't had their miracle yet, because everybody should get to experience this who wants to. And yeah, and just, stay positive, because I think that really helps things too, It's not that I don't have my moments, but my life seems a lot happier when I try to see the bright side of everything. So, we're very blessed in this life, and it was my exciting story. So yeah, thanks guys. Well, now we're on to the next chapter. Bye.